Here's what you need. You need understanding. And the word understanding means to stand under.
Right, right.
To stand under the opinion or the thoughts of somebody else. In other words, I'm going to subordinate what I think so that I can come to a clarity of understanding what somebody else thinks.
Yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't mean you have to give up free will or give up thought.
Hello, and welcome back to Now That'll Preach. My name is Jared Crowley. I'm your host. I'm sitting across from Pastor David Freck. And if you are new to That'll Preach, basically the whole concept is that we take your questions, your topics, your comments, and we throw them at this guy, ask him to preach a little 5-10 minute sermonette. And yeah, if you like this content, be sure to like, share, subscribe. You never know who it might touch, who it might help. So
hopefully it's a blessing.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Awesome.
I pray that it's a blessing quite often. So.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you do.
Alrighty, you ready, sir?
Ready as I'm going to get.
Okay. All right, I'm just going to read this one verbatim because I like how they said it. So they said, this person said, "There's so much division in our world, our communities, and even the church. What should we be learning during this time, and how should the church go forward?"
That's a really well stated question.
For sure, yeah.
What should we learn and how should the church move forward? What should we learn? Well, I think ultimately, we need to be people that truly become what we're called to become. So we need to learn how to be Christ followers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of political party followers, agenda-driven followers. And the problem is we attach Christianity to these various segments.
Yeah.
And all of them have their strengths and all of them have their weaknesses.
Yeah, right.
So the problem is we ascribe to one thing and we throw out the rest.
Yep.
We ascribe to this thing, but we throw out the rest.
Right.
And if this side believes that, well, I'm okay with that, but it's all the other stuff that I don't believe, that's not okay. Therefore, it's all garbage.
Yeah, right.
And so we've not learned how to listen.
Yeah, definitely.
We've not learned how to listen without agenda. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
What is the primary purpose of communication?
To get information, like to share information with one another?
To share information?
Yeah.
Okay. I would suggest, and that's a reasonable answer, but I would suggest that the primary purpose for communication is to achieve understanding.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
To achieve understanding. It's different than I'm communicating to be understood.
Right, right.
Everybody likes to communicate because they want to be understood.
For sure, yeah.
But nobody communicates to achieve understanding. Think about the difference.
Right, right.
And I think if we could learn, what does the Bible tell us to do? In all your gettings, Proverbs says, in all your gettings, get understanding. It's more valuable than anything you can get.
Right,
anything you can get, here's what you need. Here's what you need. You need understanding. And the word understanding means to stand under.
Right, right.
To stand under the opinion or the thoughts of somebody else. In other words, I'm going to subordinate what I think so that I can come to a clarity of understanding what somebody else thinks.
Yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't mean you have to give up free will or give up thought. But the problem is if I disagree with you, then I'm some kind of radical no good.
Sure, right.
So there's no room for discussion.
Definitely.
There's no room for listening.
Yeah.
There's nobody trying to achieve understanding. We're only trying to drive agendas.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that is one of the huge problems of today.
Yeah.
And as long as we're driving agendas and not trying to understand each other, we're never going to get there.
Right.
We're never going to get there. If we're just going to scream at each other, we're never going to get there.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right.
So it's the bully pulpit. That's how things function today. So I think, first of all, we got to listen. So the key is non-agenda driven listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number two, asking sincere questions, not loaded ones.
Yeah.
not driven ones,
Yeah,
but
that's
asking
good.
sincere
That's good.
questions. Third, undistracted listening, focused, undistracted listening.
Yeah.
And then finally, restate what you understand. Because how do you know whether you understand? How do you know whether you understand me or not?
Right. Right.
Well, you will have a discussion and you'll say something like, "Okay, I understand now. Let me tell you something."
Yeah.
So you've assumed you understand,
Right. Right.
because I talked to you for a few minutes and you listened for a few minutes.
Right.
But how do you know you understand?
Yeah.
There's only one way, is if you restate what you understand, and then I say, "That's what I'm saying."
Yeah. Right.
Once I say that, then guess what? Ding, ding,
I
ding, ding.
understand.
You've
Yeah,
achieved
yeah.
understanding.
Right.
So now you have a right to relate to him based on what you now understand,
That's good.
as opposed to what you assume you
For
understand.
sure. Yeah.
And that's one of the problems. We're not releasing people because we understand what they're saying.
Right.
We're just assuming we understand.
Yeah. For sure.
So I think that's one of the first things that has to happen. That's one of the lessons we need to learn. We need to listen, we need to understand. I think the other thing that we need to learn in this season is we need to learn how to love people that are not like us,
Definitely.
don't think like us,
Yep.
don't act
Yep.
like us.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We need to learn how to do that. And we have an environment that is ripe to learn.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Plenty of opportunities.
There's a lot of opportunities
Yeah.
to learn how to love people that don't look like you, don't think like you, don't walk like you,
Yep.
don't talk like
Definitely.
you,
Yeah.
that their very existence might make you shiver.
Yeah. Right.
But
Right.
God has called us to love everybody.
Yep.
So this brings me to my third thing. We have to learn how to live what I call kingdom culture. We have to learn how to live a life based on kingdom principles.
Definitely.
And not American principles, European principles,
Right.
international principles, democratic principles, Republican principles,
sure.
liberal
For sure.
principles, conservative principles. We need to learn how to live based on biblical principles. And I'm going to suggest the reason why Jesus was not really well received by the political and religious
Yeah.
people of his time
Right.
is because he just didn't fit nicely into any of those
For
boxes.
sure. For sure.
And he pushed the envelopes of those things, and
Yeah.
he challenged his mere existence, the way he managed himself and related to things, pushed against the boundaries of what was acceptable in that time and in that
Definitely.
culture.
Yeah.
And they killed him for it.
Right,
Ultimately,
right.
they killed him for it.
Yeah.
And so we have to understand it's going to come at a price.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy,
Right.
but the kingdom of God is worth contending for.
Definitely.
So kingdom, understanding, listening, which kingdom is learning how to love people.
Yeah. Right.
With true diversity.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just I've got a different color skin than you, or I came from a different country
For
than
sure.
you.
Right.
It is literally the diversity of opinion,
Yeah. Definitely.
the
Definitely.
diversity of thought,
Right.
and that we don't all have all the we don't
Yes.
have all the answers.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I believe the Bible does,
Right. Right.
but I don't know everything.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
I sure hope that the Bible could give us some answers if we'd be willing to really
dive into it.
and be sincere about it,
Right. Right.
and not excuse ourselves.
Yeah. Or looking for the answer that you want in the Bible. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. So
Yeah.
so I would say that those are kind of the things we need to learn.
Yeah. For sure.
And where should we go from here? Or where should the church go from here? Well, the church should go from here to strive to be the church.
Definitely. Yeah.
And the church is a loving community that has a heart for God's
Yep.
mission in the earth.
Yep.
And our mission hasn't changed. The world's changed, but our mission hasn't changed.
For sure. Yeah.
And really ascribe ourselves to the mission of God in the earth, and really give ourselves to it. Too many of us have served God for what He can do for us.
Definitely.
And we're now at a
Definitely.
place where God is expecting us to live our life for Him.
Yep.
He's
For
the point.
sure.
He's
For
the point to
sure.
all of this.
Yeah.
And hopefully the church will do that. Hopefully this will refine the church. There's a lot of people falling away right
Yeah.
now.
Right.
Some places are having great revival, but I believe there's also, for many, there's a sincere return
Definitely.
to the Lord, because
Yeah.
they're looking at this and they're saying, all this stuff is just garbage.
Yep.
I need to find some real answers.
Yeah,
And
right.
hopefully they're turning to God, and
Yeah.
the church is walking this out in a
Right.
way that we're going to learn together
For sure.
and grow together.
Yeah.
So that's my hope. That's my
Yeah.
prayer. I think that's a great question.
I think so too. Yeah. I think there's just such a huge responsibility that we have right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why we're in this time. You know what I mean? Dealing with what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And
The church has spent, in my opinion, too much time aligning with political causes and assuming that our objective on the earth was to change the spiritual environment, the political environments that exist.
Agree.
And I'm not saying we should be excusing ourselves from them,
Right.
but we cannot look at those things as the solution, because they're not.
I agree.
The Bible says the church is the light of the world, right? We as individuals are the light of the world, and we're to shine. So let's shine for Jesus. Let's do our part one life at a time, one job at a time, one relationship at a time. Let's do what God's called us to do in those environments. And if we can change the course of men's hearts and turn people towards Him, honestly and sincerely, turn people towards Him, this stuff will get squared away. But it ain't going to happen at the snap of fingers. It's not going to happen overnight.
And it's not, you have to take the initiative. Like, God took the initiative with you. You need to take the initiative with people. You know what I mean? Like, it's not on them to come to your church and ask the questions. It's on you to go out and start talking to people that don't look like you, don't think like you. Yeah, exactly what you were saying.
So that's what Jesus said. Go to the highways and the hedges. And compel. So it's this idea that listen, the world disregards the church, and I think we've deserved it to some degree.
For sure.
And so we have to be honest about that and realize that we've created our own problem by our ineptitude, by our selfishness, by our insulation and isolation.
For sure.
And the world has looked at us as non-essentials.
Yeah, what's the point?
And they got to start seeing something, not in our buildings and our services, but something in believers, something in Christians that says, okay, they're doing the same things we are, but they're joyful, they have peace, their families are in order, their kids aren't whacked out on drugs. How are they doing that?
Right.
How are they doing that? And I think that that's going to be the biggest testimony that'll change the world. It's just the light that's shining through every family that loves God. You know, so a lot of prayer.
For sure.
Great question. That was a really good question. I appreciate it.
No, I got super excited when I saw that.
Yeah, hopefully it's a good answer too. So.
Yeah, no, I think that was great, man. I think you hit all the necessary components, and for sure, man.
Once again, that's something you could talk about for an hour.
All right, man. Well, appreciate you.
Keep the questions coming.
For sure.
Smash the like button. Share this
if
you think it'll be meaningful to somebody.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we will see you guys next week. That'll preach.
That'll preach. Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, thank you, man.